today I'm going to teach how to set up a reel on a new fishing pole. So it's a brand new fishing pole, has never been used before. It's a 4-piece travel rod. Show how to set it up for you specifically, then also how to put the line on it and have it ready to start fishing. So normally we get a fishing reel, it handles folded in like this for packaging purposes, and then you have to set up how do you want this. You're gonna do you reel with your left hand or your right hand. That's what this knob right here is for. So you actually undo this knob. I reel with my left, so this is convenient. It's already set up on the left side, but let's say you reel with your right hand. You take this knob all the way out. Just unscrews, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You swap this to the other side. As you can tell, it's actually not square. You put it back in. Put the screw back in on this side. Tighten it down. And now you're going to be reeling from your right side. So I reel from the left, so I'm going to set it back up on the left side. Slides back in the hole. Tighten this knob back down. Make sure you don't cross thread it. There you go. So got it tightened back down. Handles out, so it's ready to spin. Okay. Now it's ready to spin. To put this line on, there's a couple tricks here, a couple things to consider. I see this happen all the time, and there is a way to fix it in case you do, but I always put the line on, I start it, flipping up the bail. I flip the bail up, take my fishing line, whatever I'm going to put on it. This rod is going to really be set up for bass, crappie, small trout. Get a pencil. One of the best tools for doing this. Get a pencil, slides through this hole, and you hand it to a friend. So I did 4-piece. Like I said, it's a 4-piece. So I actually put 2 of these pieces together because you want one eyelet. Put your line through the eyelet. Have your friend put actual pressure on the sides of the spool, so it doesn't just free spool like that. You want this. You want some pressure on your line when you're putting it on. You don't want a ton, but it needs this spool on there so it's not super loose. If it is super loose when you're doing this, when you first cast, it'll spool out. It'll create a rat's nest. It's just a hot mess. So you need to keep some friction on it. So what I do is I'm not super particular the knot that I put in here to tie it to the reel. I actually just like to do a box knot. So just tie a normal knot. If you get down to the end of this, you got a fish that's too big for this pool anyway. So there always should be regular pressure on here. So I just tie a normal knot. Get this on here nice and tight so the spool spins, so does the line. Okay? To cut off the extra, let's take a pocket knife. I just want this out of my way, so I just put it in here. Cut off the rest of the tag. Falls off. We're good to go. Okay? So it's just got a little tag on the end. That's it. Okay. Set the knife aside. All right, so now I got this tied on here. It's got one loop on here tied on. Flip your bail down. Make sure your buddy keeps some pressure on that spool. If he doesn't keep pressure on that spool, this is going to be loose. In case you have to do this another way, you can hold some pressure up here for yourself. It just gets really difficult trying to do 3 things at once. So my goal is to have my whoever's holding it have pressure on the spool, but don't not too much, but just so it's not unspooling super fast. Did you hear that click? I'm not actually spooling anything right now because that clicking. That means your bail just needs to be tightened a little bit. Turn this clockwise, it'll tighten it down. A little more friction. Okay, so now we're going to start spooling this line on. We got to keep some friction on there. Friend needs to have a little more friction than that. Has to have some resistance, but not a ton. And you can let go a little bit pressure, so it should be able to spin pretty freely. And you start reeling it on. Now my rule of thumb on this is I'm going to put enough line on here that I can fit a quarter on this right here. It needs to have a quarter, the coin depth between the line and the outside edge right here. That way, when you go to cast, it doesn't just pop over the edge of the spool. Okay, so you put on about that much. Okay, so I'm going back to reeling. Like I said, that pencil through the spool, that your buddy's holding. That's how I was taught growing up. That's how we spool up reels. With some light 6-pound line. Your reel will actually tell you on the side of the reel how many yards of line it can hold. And that's a rough estimate. Different lines have different thicknesses, so it's a rough estimate. A lot of times the rod will actually tell you what sizes that it's capable of doing, so you can match the size of the rod to the size of the fish, the size of your line, thickness of your line, or strength of your line. So we just keep reeling. We're getting pretty darn close. Keep reeling here, and we're getting really close to the quarter thickness. So this is where you can tell if your buddy's not holding enough pressure on there. I stop reeling, and his unspools and creates a bunch of knots here, and that's what we're trying to avoid, okay? So how you tie this off, to get ready to prep your rod, I normally just bite it off. Don't tell your dentist this. Bite the line off. The coolest thing, so you see that, see how that unspooled? That means it probably wasn't put on quite tight enough. So I try to get some of the slack out of here. Have y'all ever wondered what that little clip is for? Take your line, you go past that little button, hold your line down, come underneath it, and it clips the line in, holds it ready to be set up. Okay. So that's how you set up your reel. Now it's just going through the eyelets, putting this fish. Finish putting this rod together first. You got three more pieces. Put the rod together, and then you feed your line through all your eyelets and set your rod up. You can watch one of our other videos of how to tie a knot. And so you'll see that next step on the next video.